there's a variety in the room, but this presentation will be specific to Anchor, and we will turn it over to Janan.
Okay, so thank you, Jenny, for your thorough explanation so far. So today I'm going to show you how you can essentially just bring your podcast to life, like give it a separate entity using, technically, like Jenny said, you can swap Anchor with any other podcast domain provider if you wanted to, depending on your podcasting needs. But because personally, I am currently using Anchor, I'm just going to take you through some steps on how to start your own podcast, publish your own podcast using Anchor. So the first thing I want to talk about first, before you publish anything online, I just want to emphasize that, at least from my perspective personally, it's really important that you do whatever it takes to give your podcast its own identity and make it its own separate entity. So whether it's you creating a separate like email account for your podcast or making like social media accounts for your podcast, I personally figured that it really helps you a lot. It puts you so many steps forward in the process because you're already like, you've made that commitment kind of. So it really, really does help a lot, especially as a beginner in the podcasting world. And yeah, again, like Jenny alluded into, you really have to figure out your formatting, timing, and just how you want to structure your show before you start publishing anything. Again, coming from my own perspective and experience, I would prefer if the first few episodes or the pilot episode is more structured than usual, so that you kind of have something to work off of, and you can potentially use that first episode as a template so that you can essentially build on it and just watch the progression and evolution of your show, which is really nice to really keep an eye out for. Like personally for TKO, for my own podcast, sometimes I just sit back and, not that I like shuffle through the episodes or anything, but like my podcast is on Spotify, and I just like go through the list of episodes and go years back, and I just see how much the show itself has evolved, which is pretty cool. So yeah, really does help with that. But now let's talk about how you can actually publish your podcast. So you can literally use any platform depending on what you're trying to get out of podcasting. Personally, I use Anchor because it is extremely user-friendly. It is completely free to use, and you can upload unlimited number of episodes, and the online storage is, I believe, is unlimited. Some other platforms, you will have to pay for a subscription in order to get all those benefits. So that's why I personally decided to go with Anchor. Previously, I used SoundCloud, which was okay, but again, it didn't have as many benefits, the same benefits as Anchor. But again, it really depends on you. For example, if you want to monetize your podcast, I wouldn't really recommend Anchor. And we're going to be talking about that later. And if people have anything else to weigh in on this, please definitely hop on and give suggestions on what other domain providers you use for your own podcast. But yeah, so for the purpose of this workshop, we're going to take everything through Anchor. So here, so I'm just going to include screenshots of how you can do everything from scratch to upload and publish your own podcast using Anchor. So this is the first page that comes up. Once you type in Anchor, the website comes up, and just like you want to sign up for any account online, you just create your own account. So here I just entered the email account for this demo podcast that I specifically created for this workshop. So you have the name and everything, the email, and then you click sign up, verify your email, and then it takes you to this dashboard. And just see how beautiful it is here, because it has all these different steps and levels for you to just literally click on, and the process itself will just like take you through everything that you have to do in order to publish your very first episode and for your podcast to become live online. So I can't remember the first time that I did all this with my own podcast. So when I was doing this with this demo podcast, I kind of like came in with a fresh mind again. I didn't really remember what I did before. So again, like it was pretty fresh to me. But by the end of this demonstration, hopefully you can also appreciate how convenient and easy all this is. So what I did here literally was that I clicked, let's do this. And it took me to this page here. So here you have two options in order to upload your episode to the website. So one option is that on the right panel here, you can, this is personally what I do for my own show. I would just record my audio, add in the music, the sound bites, whatever it is, do all the edits. And then the finalized version, the MP3 file, I'll just drag and drop here to upload to Anchor. But you do have the option of doing everything from scratch using Anchor itself. So they give you the option of recording right on the spot if you wanted to do that, or you could upload different audio files from, I believe, like previously uploaded files from Anchor. You can also import your own music or import music from Spotify onto your Anchor episode, which is pretty cool because again, like we were talking about earlier, all the copywriting issues and whatnot. And because Anchor is a subdivision of Spotify, they actually allow for that, and it's completely legal and it works. And you can also add personalized messages to your listeners, and they have a list of free to use like sound bites and everything that you, if you want to include them in your episode. So you do have all these options. It definitely allows for a lot of like freedom and creativity. But again, personally, my preference is to do everything on my own and then just literally just use Anchor to upload it to the web. But again, you do have all these options right here. So now that you upload your episode, just like anything, you have to come up with a title for it, whatever you want to call it. You can have show descriptors or just add a short description of what that particular episode is about. And what I want to bring your attention to here is that you can actually choose when you want to publish your episode. So you could do it right on the spot immediately, or you can actually schedule your episodes. So going back to the different formats of podcasts, if you've already pre-recorded a whole podcast, or a whole season, this might be the better option for you. You can upload all of your episodes at the same time, but then just choose when you want each episode to be published. You don't even have to go on there manually to do it like every week if you didn't want to. So it's definitely good to have this option. And then when you scroll down this page, it takes you to this section. So if you wanted to, you can have a specific artwork just for this particular episode. Again, it's pretty optional. I personally don't do it, but it's good to have the option for it. If you wanted to number your seasons or like your episodes or whatever, and like the episode types here as well, you can upload full episodes, or you can do, if you're just starting out and you don't really know if you're confident enough to go with a full episode, you can upload a promo or a trailer. And it's pretty cool. You can also add some bonus contents, or like if you and your co-hosts are just joking around, I guess you can just add in like bloopers or something. I don't know, something like that. And here you also have to specify if the show content is clean or explicit. I think this is actually pretty important later on when you want to distribute your podcast to other platforms like iTunes, because they're very particular about if your content is actually like clean, or if like even if your show is mostly clean content, but if you have a couple episodes here and there that include some explicit content, you have to be you always have to specify that. So yeah, even though it says optional, I would say, oh wait, like if you do have those explicit episodes here and there, definitely make sure that you make note of them and you click here. All right, so I click on next. And so notice how to this point, everything that we did was just for that first episode or that first audio file, whatever type it was. And now it's just starting to ask us about, okay, what the heck is your podcast even called, right? So now if you have like a creative name in mind or anything, like here I just chose something very, very extremely basic, podcasting 101 with Jenna, whatever. Just add a podcast description, however you want to however you want the search engines to kind of like pick up your podcast, like Jenny was talking about earlier, the keywords are kind of important. If somebody, for example, on Apple Podcasts, somebody types in a specific keyword, if your keyword is included in your show description, then there's a high chance that your show is going to show up higher on the list. So yeah, I mean, like, obviously don't overthink it, but definitely something to keep in mind. And then here you have to choose your show category. There's a drop-down list of a whole bunch of different topics. I understand, again, depending on the format of your podcast, you may have a hard time trying to just categorize it into one category. It might be a comedy show, but also like a how-to show, or it might fall into different categories, but try to choose something that is closest to whatever subject matter you usually talk about on your show, and then the language of the podcast, and then you do continue. Okay, so here it's asking you to upload a artwork for your podcast, or like an album cover for your podcast, right? So here again, you have two options. You can either have your own logo and album cover, podcast cover already made. If you are into that type of thing, if you already have like made a logo or like done graphic designing, like if you're really excited about the design that you really want to upload here, you can definitely go ahead and do that. But also, if you're a beginner, you do have the option of just allowing Anchor helping you out in this case. If you have no idea how to design things around, it does give you the option of searching for like background photos. So for the purpose of this podcast, this demo podcast, I chose this option as well. And then they have a bank of just free to use images that you can choose from. And then later you can just play around with it and just customize it with the text that you want to include on the cover. So yeah, different fonts to choose from and colors and where you actually want to position it here on the screen. So it definitely gives you a lot of options and things to play around with and be creative with. So yeah, again, you don't really have to be an expert. You don't have to have everything planned out. You can just do it on the spot. And if you ever change your mind, you can always come back and change these images or whatever you want to do. But it's just nice that, especially for those just starting out, there's all these easy to use options. And once you do that, see, we're already here. It says ready to publish. I mean, personally, just going through all these steps myself, I'm like, really? Already ready to publish? So yeah, literally what I did in this step was that I clicked on publish, and it does say here that the first platform that your podcast will become available on is going to be Spotify again, because of that Anchor and Spotify relationship. So it says you're almost live. Okay, so that's how fast it was for us to have our podcast be published on Spotify and Anchor itself. But now this is where things get more interesting. So so everything, like the website just kind of walks you through all the steps, and then it just takes you to this technical page, which includes your RSS feed and gives you information on the RSS distribution. So what is an RSS feed? I'm sure there's so many people here in this workshop who can give a more descriptive explanation of what a RSS feed is, but technically, in lay terms, it is a link, like an identifier of your podcast that you need to use if you want to distribute your podcast to different platforms. So Anchor itself, it gives you like a shortcut link to all these other platforms, whichever one you decide to choose from and have your podcast be distributed on. So Apple Podcasts is definitely one of the popular ones, Google Podcasts, again, I would have been more than happy to walk you through all these different steps, but I understand that, for example, my preference for using Apple Podcasts might not be the same as someone else's who would prefer to, for example, use Breaker or something else. But all the steps are very straightforward and very similar in nature. The big thing to remember is that if they ever ask you for an RSS feed, this is where you would actually find it. So yeah, technically here you have to click enable, and then it will show you that link. And then this is where you would get it from. So yeah, and yeah, honestly, you're all set. The thing is though, with Anchor, like, I don't know if I already mentioned it or not, it has a lot of advantages. Here they do show a monetization option, which you could use if you are a US resident. However, it just doesn't work in Canada. So unfortunately, we have to skip through that step. But again, if monetization is something that you really care about, I'm sure there's so many different other domain providers and websites and platform providers that can be of a better help for that purpose. So yeah, honestly, at this stage, what I would recommend is that you go out there, try to promote your show as much as possible, go on social media, because it is very exciting. Because I don't know if anybody timed this presentation or not, but this is how easy it was for us to create or like publish our own podcast. And yeah, this is a made up podcast, but this is how easy it was for us to just have it available online. It's its own entity. It's already available. So this is the Anchor website for our podcast. And as you can see here, it already has a tab, a link for us to go to the Spotify page for this podcast. And here we are in 10 easy steps. And I believe like 10 minutes or so, we're already on Spotify. I haven't actually checked this demonstration podcast on Spotify. Like I haven't listened to it or anything, but it's out there. This is our masterpiece. So yeah. We made it happen, and I just wanted to show you how easy it is, especially if you're just gonna learn how to podcast, or you've kind of like been so scared of, oh gosh, you know, the technical aspects of things and how hard is it really to publish my podcast. This is how easy it is to publish your podcast, and I just wanted to emphasize that.